Welcome back, everybody, to the Renaissance Humanism podcast. In today's episodes, we will be discussing will regional powers support the terrorist group Hamas. People don't know Hamas, they control the Gaza Strip, which is on the border with Israel and Egypt. Since the 7th of October 2023, the State of Israel has been at war with the terrorist-controlled organization, Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip, which is one of the most densely populated areas on our planet. Hamas has been the de facto government body in Gaza Strip since 2007, when it ousted the Palestinian Authority and murdered the local Palestinian officials and removed them totally from the Gaza Strip. Since then, they've been using the Gaza Strip to attack the state of Israel. The Gaza Strip was once under the control of the military rulership of Egypt from 1947 to 1956, then from 1957 to 1967. From the beginning, the chief economic and social problem was the presence of large numbers of Palestinian Arab refugees, which was a problem for Egypt. The Egyptian government also had no love for the Palestinians, very much viewed them as a significant problem to the security of Egypt. As for Israelis, there's always been the goal, at least since the establishment of the State of Israel, since 1948, push the Palestinians out of the region. Israel, if possible, would like to move the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, move them out of the Gaza Strip into control of Egyptian territory in the Sinai Peninsula, thereby securing the Gaza Strip for the use of Israel and removing terrorist groups and increasing the security of the State of Israel. Egypt doesn't have any genuine interest in the welfare of the Palestinians, prefer to stay out of the brewing conflict which is happening now in the Gaza Strip. People usually in the West only view the Middle East through social media posts written in English with people speaking English in more liberal cities within the Middle East, because usually in cities the population tends to be more liberal and the more conservative regions obviously don't live in the cities. When we view events like the Arab Spring in 2010, the massive protests in the Middle East, we view them through a more liberal-minded minority within the Middle East that shares views similar to Western liberalism. We're not truly getting a clearer picture of their societies, and non-governmental organisations working within the region often don't take part or actually talk to people that are not conservatives or don't speak a good English. The United States and NATO, during its involvement in Afghanistan from 2001 and 2021, charity organizations, people trying to develop a nation build within Afghanistan, they often actually didn't leave the actual cities, because they stayed in the cities because they were safer, people spoke English, they had better air conditioning, and they just felt safer. They didn't actually go into the actual local villages, the small towns, just because they didn't feel as safe. And because they want to be safe, they didn't really do their job properly, which is completely understandable. I myself, I don't want to go to a village, risk getting beheaded, blown up, or anything like that. And the organisation, the charities, they obviously felt the same. It's just human nature. But it's worth pointing out that in the case of Afghanistan, part of that failure was because a lot of people were just cowardly, which I understand perfectly. And I don't even know if I would do any better myself, but I'd at least be aware of the actual. I wouldn't delude myself, put it that way. I like to think, and I actually like to think that people reading this as well, I should say, listen to this, but also they come to the same conclusion, because most people don't want to get blown up, hopefully. The country, next now, we're going to talk about Lebanon. Lebanon is an interesting case study. Its demographics and how demographics can actually affect its policy as well, its policy within the government as well. There was a transfer of the majority Christian population in the 1930s. Now it's a majority Muslim population. When the French left in 1946, this new country was drawn lines on a map. It wasn't based on ethnic groups. It was based on colonial lines just drawn up on a map between the British and and the and the French after the end of the First World War in 1918. So again, these aren't proper countries line drawing up. For example, in the region, there's a group called the Kurds. There's a 30 million ethnic group, and the Kurds, if it was drawn to be an actual country, it would have territory in Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. It's the biggest ethnic group in the world. It doesn't actually have its own country, its own nation state. So that's just to be aware of how complicated the actual Middle East is as well. and how these nations have been drawn on a map that have been drawn organically. They didn't come organically where a nation state rose to power and ruled that minority there. It just didn't happen, which is unfortunate for the Kurds in this case. As for the Lebanon itself, the Lebanese had a civil war from 1975 to 1990. It resulted in an estimated 150,000 fatalities and departure of almost 1 million people from Lebanon. The terrorist group in Lebanon is called Hezbollah. It is a Shiite organization that gets its support from the Iranian government, and the Iranians are unlikely to push Hezbollah to interfere in the Hamas-Israeli war, was happening this year in 2023, due to because the Iranians they've already sent Hamas to attack Israel, trying to disrupt the peace talks that have been happening in the Middle East between the Saudi Arabia and Israel to normalize relations, and the Iranians won't want to throw any more of their supporters, any more of these assets into the dumpster fire. For Hamas, it was a calculated risk. If they got Hamas to attack Israel, would it prevent the Saudi Arabians and Israelis going to alliance and further isolating Iran from the rest of the region? Fun fact as well, the United States says in regards to Iran, we do deserts, we don't do mountains. There's a lack of indication of why the United States has never actually invaded Iran, especially after its invasion of Iraq in 2003. Now I'm going to talk about the Iranians and the United States. As for the Iranians getting involved in this conflict directly for its troops actually to attack Israel, they'll need to go through Iraq, Syria, and Jordan, and those nations are incredibly unlikely to allow them to pass through their lands. Furthermore, the Iranians lack the kind of power projection they have no interest in sparking a conflict with the United States of America, and neither is the United States interested in invading Iraq because they do deserts, they don't do mountains. Um, the reason why the United States may stop supporting the Israelis as well is because of the demographic changes within the United States. It's becoming more Latino. The white majority is now starting to become a minority. And what this means, the people that are from South America, they're interested in South America. They don't have the same interest in Europe, in the Middle East, in these other regions. And you can see this now in two conservative talk hosts in America. The one is Candace Owens, she's an African American woman. She wants the United States to be out of foreign policy, out of the rest of the world, and just focus on North America. And Shapiro is of Jewish descent. He's Jewish. He's a apostate of Israel. He's very much anti-American involvement in the Ukraine, and but in hypocrisy, he's supportive of American involvement in supporting the state of Israel. Again, this is because there's two different people, two different ethnic groups within the United States. And as America becomes less white, more Latino, uh, his interests in Europe, in the Middle East will change. This is not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, but it's just how democracies work. As democracy change, due to the voter base, people who are voting, they'll start to change how they actually interact with the rest of the world and internal politics. For the moment in the UK, as I'm writing this, there's a chance that the Labour Party in opposition will potentially lose the 2024 or 2025 general election, depending when it actually takes place. Most likely in 2024, but it could be as late as January 2025. Opposition leader Keir Starmer, due to his supporting of the nation state of Israel, could potentially lose 30 seats in Muslim majority areas or where there's a sizable Muslim population, just because the Muslim population in the United Kingdom may switch over to the Conservative or put forward another candidate, which could see Labour losing votes and therefore potentially not winning the general election or getting a smaller majority. That's just how it works. You've got democracies, people in democracies influence policymakers and they influence the political decisions and the political leaders. As for America, this is neither good or bad. As for Saudi Arabia, the current Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he was born in August 1985, is a millennial. Millennials are born from 1981 until 1996. His father, the King of Saudi Arabia, his name is, but I got this right. I think it's Fabin bin Salat. I'm not going to try and pretend I can actually know know how to say his name, but the current king of Saudi Arabia, he's not really in the difficult ruling. He's still the ruler. He's not involved in the operations, unlike his actual son, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS. And the king is very anti-Israel prince. He's a millennial. According to the geopolitical analyst Peter Zeeland, he doesn't really give a shit about Israel or all the Palestinians in that way. And that's the only thing that he really wants is Israel as a partner against the Iranians, because there's a big Iran versus Saudi Arabia power feud within the Middle East over control and influence within the region, with both nations allegedly, I do allegedly in comma marks, if you can see what we're doing now, both supporting terrorist groups in the region trying to fight each other. And because of that, and because of the actual division between them both, over the next few months, we'll discover who truly rules Saudi Arabia, which direction they will go in terms of foreign policy. If it gets violent, there could be the possibility that the crown prince could be removed from the position of being crown prince, or his father could be removed from the throne. We'll find that now within the next few months, or they might adopt a policy of silence, not going either way. But again, we'll find out next few months. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you find it informative, and peace out.